Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, a homeowner association finds a farmer for simply doing her work. She gets epic revenge and teaches the HOA a lesson. Here is what happened. Subscribe to Ripe on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. My family and I have lived in a quaint little town for generations. We were not necessarily in the middle of nowhere, but the next biggest city was about a 2 to 3 hour drive depending on traffic. We live on the base of a mountain, and my brother and I actually inherited the current house we live in from my grandparents. My parents were close by, I grew up here, and it was great not to have to pay rent or a mortgage or anything like that. I know people will say things about small town life, but I honestly loved it. It felt like a tight-knit community that was held up by everyone's bonds and friendship. Our little town is pretty unique too, considering how diverse it is for a smaller population. We had a lot of little specialty shops and specialized restaurants that you normally would not find in a small town. I guess over the years our little town started getting more attention because soon enough into my young adult years we had a nice mix: small town folks, farmers and even city folk. Now, I don't really care where people are from, and I really hate to stereotype people. All I care is that you respect people and treat them with kindness. When the city folks started moving in, they began to complain about things right away. A lot of the complaints had to do with farmers/animals etc. being next to their property. Well, my question is, if you knew you were not going to like that kind of life, why move here and move next to a farm? People here had to make a living doing honest work, and no one ever had a problem with it before. A couple of these city slickers, no disrespect if you're reading this and live in the city, made it into the town government officials, and soon enough an HOA was being formed. Keep in mind that we were not built like a jam-packed city, so for example our houses were spaced apart instead of right up against each other. A lot of us had land that needed to be maintained, and I knew that an HOA being formed would fine us for everything they could. Around the time the HOA started forming, my brother and I also started my own small farming business. We had some crops going, chickens, cows and goats, and we obviously were not a big operation, but after going through all the permits and whatnot, we were raking in some good cash. Now, I did not slaughter animals on my farm, so a lot of our business was dairy and goat milk and eggs. At one point we had so many eggs that we started giving them away to neighbors and homeless people in town. Although homelessness was not really a huge issue in our town, it felt good to help people out. However, I guess the new HOA did not like me because they tried to fine me for operating machinery too early in the morning. Keep in mind, I never got a notice or invitation to join the HOA. A lot of other people joined because they felt pressured, or they even thought it would help build the city up. I'm not sure, and either way I was not really interested. My brother and I just minded our business anyways. Why should we care if Susan across the street had not cut her grass in 3 weeks? Do you get what I mean? Anyways, I politely told them that I did not consider myself a part of this HOA because I never signed anything. Of course they had a problem with that and tried to fine me for everything. They tried to fine me for my house being the wrong color, which was extremely silly because everyone on our street had a different colored house. Who cares? Does a different color really make a difference? After this, I started building a chicken coop because I planned to bring more chickens into our small farm, since eggs were such a huge part of our business. And I guess I should have seen it coming. As soon as we started building the coop, the HOA comes at us saying that we don't have permission to do this and that they are going to report us. Unfortunately for the HOA, I know my rules. I went to the city officials to make sure that I don't need any permits and whatnot. I would technically only need a permit if my coop were over a certain size. So guess what I did? I started the process of getting a permit so I could build a bigger coop, except I still kept building my smaller one because more coops equals more noisy chickens. Which I knew that is what the HOA complaints were really about. They were trying to turn our street and other neighborhoods into quiet, meek street you would see in the suburbs or something. And of course, they still tried to complain about the coop being built. They kept sending me letters and complaints, but I did not budge. However, I was also smart and started building the bigger coop in the backyard where nobody could really see it unless they were right up against my fence. When it was done, I moved it to the side yard, and when an HOA member came knocking on my door one day, I told them there was nothing they could do about it because I had done everything right and shoved a copy of the permit papers in his face. The HOA does not bother me anymore, and no, I will not share my overflow of eggs with them. And yeah guys, that is why you should never mess with a farmer, especially if you are an HOA. And specifically when you're an HOA trying to build a stupid fancy neighborhood in a rural area. Anyway, let's continue to the next one. This one is titled, I Got Revenge on Television, literally. So to begin this story, I have to explain. I'm a college student in Portugal, so sorry if my English is not 100% perfect. I was born and raised in Azores, which is some small little islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. In order to pursue college, I had to move to the mainland, and for this I had to rent an apartment. It's a good apartment, 3 rooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room and a kitchen, and it is in a quiet neighborhood, so it's all good. This was until they started to do construction work in the apartment above. This construction work is made by a TV show that literally translates to, "Honey, I changed the house." It's quite famous here. They remodeled the entire house, replacing everything in it with new furniture, new floors, you get it, so they make a lot of noise. I'm not the party kind of guy, and I'm quite calm and peaceful guy that likes to stay home, have some friends here, drink a bit, play some games, etc. And I also do a lot of my college work at night in the apartment. Because I spend most of the day in class. So to explain, my country has a law that you can make noise from 8 AM to 6 PM, which most of my classes start around 11 or 12 PM, which works great for me since I go to sleep around 4 AM due to all the work I gotta do and little plus time for myself. They started drilling the floor at around 8 AM every day. Me and my housemate were shocked by the amount of noise they were doing. We let it pass since they shouldn't take more than a week to replace the floor. I make that assumption because me and my dad did it once to our house back on the island, but no, that noise lasted for the entire time they were there. I got a bit upset since I couldn't sleep, but I also couldn't leave the college work undone. So I decided to try and talk with them. I went to the upstairs apartment and knocked, and then came this really fat and short guy looking at me like I was not even there, and the talk went like this. Me, "Hi, I'm from the apartment below." Fat guy, "Hey, what do you want?" Me, "I was gonna ask if you guys could start the drilling at around 10 AM. I'm a college student and I do most of my work at night. Sometimes I only get to sleep at morning. Is it possible?" FG, "Nah, we have a job to do. You should go to sleep earlier if you want to sleep." He closes the door. I was pissed but remained calm. After all, it's kind of my fault if I go to bed at that time. Sometimes goes by and the noise continues. I get grumpier and grumpier. So I called the customer service of the show. They said politely that there is nothing they can do about it since it is in the legal rights. I should talk with the guys in the apartment so we can come to a conclusion. Weeks go by. I am wondering, that damn apartment is the same size as mine. How the F are they taking so long? Until a glorious morning, I wake up, normal routine, I go to the bathroom to take a shower, and when I turn on the light, what do I see? My bathroom is full of clay. Everything is completely dirty, rocks everywhere, and a damn hole right on top of the toilet. I am furious. My housemate arrives home that morning. He is not a calm person in this situation. I tell him all about this and we both go to the upper apartment. I convinced him to let me talk and he agrees. I knock on the door and to my surprise, the same fat guy, but this time he was looking at me. Me, "You guys opened a hole in my bathroom." He interrupts, FG, Yeah, we know. We already covered our part." Me, "Okay, but what about ours?" FG, "Can't you fix it? I mean, you're a man. Can't you fix the house?" My friend is furious, but I calmly put my hand on him and keep talking. Me, "No way, you broke it. You're gonna fix it unless we have to call the landlord and sue your show for this." FG, Okay, we will fix it. No need to get all formal." We came back to the house. We could hear them making fun of us because of the hole. My friend is furious again, but I'm calm because I already thought of a way to get back at them. A couple of days go by when they finally decided to fix the hole. 2 nice guys came down and fixed it and said they were sorry and everything. We chatted, they were cool, but my revenge was already planned. Sorry dudes. Me and my friend both have JBL speakers, the good one that can really play loud. This is where it begins. Every day I started to go to bed early now, so I can be up at 8 AM. First I take a shower and set up for college, and then I plug both of the speakers to my laptop and search for adult movies. Specifically Japanese ones, because you know, they have very specific voices. I leave the volume up on maximum and let it play in a loop until I get home around 6 PM. My amusement was endless, and my housemate agreed with this since we both started to leave the apartment earlier. Until one day we heard a knock on our door. It was the fat guy. FG, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing, but it has to stop. We are recording today. And we cannot have those weird noises in the background." They record the episodes in the house so they can authenticate the sound in the house and everything. They could easily use a studio for the sound, but they are really cheap on saving money. Me? Nah, since you're in the legal right to make noise from 8 AM to 6 PM, I am too. I can make the noise I want in that period of time. FG, "That will really hurt the show, you know. People love this show. Probably your mother watches it and loves it." Me? Maybe, but she knows how things are around here, so she doesn't really mind. I don't really mind, and the landlord doesn't mind either. Can't you fix it yourself? The fat guy goes mad, starts stomping the ground as he turns around and leaves, and this continues. I see the camera crew arriving from my window. They enter the apartment, knock on my door. I did not even answer. Just some loud lewd noises all day. This goes on for 3 days straight with the camera crew, but one day they never tried again. I think the episode was cancelled due to the noise. The funniest part is that they make these constructions free for people. The only revenue they gained is from the viewership of the episodes. It puts a smile on my face when I know they just wasted a budget for nothing. Sweet revenge. And the next one is titled, "Client tried to screw me over, I +1'd him." I have worked as an independent contractor in the IT field for over 20 years, doing all manner of things from creating simple HTML sites to managing a big hotel's complete IT infrastructure. One of the many clients I had back in the day I was coding biggish custom websites was a rental company. Now, I had heard a lot of warnings about not working with this guy that owned it. He had a reputation that he was sharp as a tack, backstabbing and conniving. He was a lawyer after all, so I went into the partnership with that in mind. He wanted a new website for his renting gig where people would list their home for rent. Renters would sign up and pay a subscription to the site, and he would get the whole lot, nothing out of the ordinary there. So we make a pretty good deal on paper, we sign it and I get started on the project. Coding everything in PHP goes well, but he demands suddenly that I show him progress only a week into the progress. Or rather, into the process. But anyway, he wants to see the website front now. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I tried explaining to him that the front-end work is not scheduled to start until after 6 weeks of back-end programming and that I only had pure code to show right now. The contract we signed clearly states this. He then gets on his high horse and demands that I put everything on hold to do the front end first, design and then program. I, being really young at the time and fairly naive, agreed to this without asking for it to be added to the contract as an addendum and start working on the design now. The contract stated that I was given free reign of the design decisions as long as I maintained the same color scheme and used the same logo on the site. So I make a fast draft in Fireworks. This was back when it was a Macromedia product before the Adobe acquisition, and within 2 days I show him. He is not impressed and demands a different direction and sets up a list of demands. I, as always, aim to please the customer and do just what he wants. I design a new layout with his list of demands, but he doesn't like that either. That is how the next 3 months go, a never-ending circle where he is never happy with anything. Now, close to 4 months into the project, he demands to see a working showcase of the backend. I point out that he himself changed the order in how the project was being done and had demanded that I do the front-end design first instead of the backend as stated in the contract. Which he now turns on me and says, "Yes, the contract we both signed says you will have a working backend to show me at the end of the month. If you don't honor that, I will have to take my business elsewhere and seek compensation for your lack of professionalism." Okay, I now have 12 days to do a backend for the site. So I get a friend to help me and we work tirelessly through a weekend, and I have a good base to work from in 9 days. And mind you, at this point he has only paid the security on the contract, about 5% of the total price, and has shielded himself from paying by hiding behind, well, if you cannot honor the contract, why should I? Finish XX work and then I'll pay as per the contract. Remembering now all the warnings I had heard about this guy, I decide to add a special function to the code just to be safe, more on that later. So now it's the end of the month, we have a front-end design he is okay with, a back-end that has been finished to about 85% of what is required according to the contract, and I still have 1 month left to finish everything else. Time for show and tell. Since I was working on this development, I was running it on my own dev server and showed him this in a browser on his computer. I mentioned to him, since I only had 512 kilobytes upstream from the server, it might lag a little, but it wouldn't when it would be put on the production server he has his website on at his hosting company. He says that's okay, and the demonstration goes on. As I am showing him the site, both front-end and back-end, I can see he is immensely happy with it. Although he would never say so out loud, he's trying to hide his smile that pops up regularly, and his eyes gleam with all the added ways he can now start making money from. Anyway, he now says that it is way too slow, this is wrong, that is wrong, blah blah blah. Client, I want you to put it up on my prod server and see how the speed is. Me, okay, no problem, I can make that happen. Please pay 50% of the contract and I will get right on it. Okay, I wait a few days and then I get an email from him where he includes a forwarded message from the bank detailing a transaction from him to me to the amount of the 50% I asked for. So I pushed the system to his prod server so he can take a look at it. I then sent him an email stating that he can try the system with the supplied credentials. What he doesn't know is that I knew he had been fishing around for another programmer to do his project, to pick up from a lazy deadbeat who couldn't do anything right according to him, so I knew he would most likely try to screw me over. What I also suspected was that the email he sent me with the transaction proof was a fake, which it ended up being. Pro revenge number 1, remember that small function I mentioned? Well, what it did was, if user X, his user, tries to remove user Y, my admin, from the system without one setting being changed in the config first, the system will first delete and purge the database and then remove all the documents in the web root. Well, not 5 minutes after he reads the email from me, he does just that. He tries to delete my admin user from the system to lock me out, and guess who has nothing of the project left? He does. Pro revenge 2, since it is considered forgery to spoof an email, especially from a bank, I sent the information to the authorities and he goes under investigation by both the police and the bank lawyers. Pro revenge 3, I sold the system to a competitor of his for a better price than originally contracted to him, and last I knew, he was now blacklisted from owning a company, as well as he lost his right to work as a lawyer. I only got that 5% he paid at the beginning, and for working for just over 5 months on this project that is hardly anything. But the knowledge of his demise will keep my heart warm for the rest of my life. And yeah guys, that was actually unexpectedly one of the most epic revenge stories I have read in a long time. Never mess with an IT expert if you don't know exactly what you're doing. Rookie mistake by this guy. Anyway, thanks for watching, I hope to see you again tomorrow.